Welcome to the WellFuel Podcast, your spot for everything gut health, detox, hormones, a healthy home, mold, and everything in between. I'm your host, Isabel Smith. I'm an integrative and functional registered dietitian and the founder of Isabel Smith Nutrition. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the WellFuel Podcast. It is 2025, and we've been on hiatus for a little bit. The end of last year was super busy, and I just decided that I wanted to take a break so that I could come back refreshed and excited for some new juicy topics in 2025. So I want to give you guys a quick update on my own journey because you guys have been following along through the podcast in like what I've been doing and how I've been moving. So if you're new here, I'm on, who knows where anybody is in their healing journey, honestly. It's sort of this crazy continuum, and we sort of just continue to roll as we go. But I am now 7.5 years in. In May, will be 1 year free of antibiotics for Lyme disease. I had Bartonella, Babesia, Lyme, relapsing fever, as well as a number of other things. One of the things that we do here, because of my own experience and because our dietitians' experience with their own journeys, is we do support people with Lyme disease. We don't do any primary Lyme treatment, but we certainly help to support people along their way. If we need to refer out because somebody needs antibiotic treatment, much like I did, I'm the first person to know when that is versus when that isn't. So I completed in May my Bartonella treatment. And after that, I actually stumbled upon, remember, nothing's an accident here, stumbled upon a doctor who ended up giving me exogenous exosomes, which was really cool. And that actually helped to kind of propel my immune system forward and helped me maintain off of antibiotics. Again, I am now 7 months antibiotic free and had been pulsing on and off of antibiotics for 2 years. Nothing is perfect, right? So we keep that in mind. And I think the expectation of a person who's been through a thing that their body is suddenly going to sort of be noise free is an unrealistic expectation. There's always going to be noise. Owning a human body is an imperfect experience. So keep that in mind, I think, when you're setting your own expectations for your health and your wellness beyond your own journey. So let's see, fast forward May, I got my first round of exosomes, my second round of exosomes in July. You have to go through an extensive health screening check to make sure that it's safe for you to get exosomes. Any kind of stem cell, especially an exogenous one, could potentially promote some cancer growth. So they just need to make sure that your tumor markers are all low. I actually did end up getting a Prenuvo scan, which truly I did it mostly for, of course, myself, but also wanting to know what it was about, who I might recommend it to, who I might not recommend it to. And it was definitely a great experience. Thankfully, my scan came back clean, which was a gift. It's always a gift, right? When we have a clean bill of health and, we have an experience where we are nervous going into something and then we have the results and we feel much more at ease as a result of having the results. And so that allowed me to feel comfortable going forward with the exosome treatment. Like I said before, nothing is perfect. So I'm trying to think of the timeline here. So I had my exosomes. Things were fairly quiet. I was taking, which I did for quite some time, some herbal support for my Bartonella, which again, we do a lot here. I don't believe that for somebody who's got a primary infection, which I did, that herbs can necessarily do the job, but they certainly can help support a secondary infection or a situation in which it's not the primary problem, in which somebody isn't just creating a lot of herxing and then just pulsing herxing, but kind of getting nowhere. And that's really what I was. I was with herbs feeling like I was kind of just circling the drain and having a lot of reactivity, but not really getting anywhere and not seeing improvement. And that is really a delineating factor sort of in the overall, is it working? Is it not working? Is this the right treatment? Is it not? If you're having herxing, you want it to be kind of moving. Let's say the herxing starts at a level, whatever, maybe it gets worse, but then it starts to get better and your symptoms get better. But for me, I noticed that the herxing wasn't actually getting me anywhere, but instead was just sort of a static problem that was coming up. So That's why I did the antibiotics. But at some point you are able to utilize the herbs as your, kind of method for keeping things quiet. I knew that after I finished with the Lyme stuff, that it was not going to be the end of my Lyme journey. It was actually just sort of the beginning of keeping the immune system quiet. That is really the journey. I was just messaging with Carrie Axelrod, who I'm going to have back on. She was on talking about her journey about a year ago. She and I are in sort of similar places. And really the work begins when the treatment is over, to maintain the work, to support the immune system, and to keep the immune system happy, satisfied, and quiet. And so all summer, I think I was good. And then we went to Italy and I was in a thermal pool. And for me, the Bartonella was a very like headache. It was sort of like right over my right eye and like down my like sort of temple. And I got the Bartonella headache like pretty immediately when I was in this pool, and I've had all sorts of symptoms. Headaches have not really been my primary symptom, and headaches really freak me out. For all of you guys out there who suffer with headaches, my heart is with you. It is completely debilitating, and many of the things that we experience are, but there's something about a headache that just really prevents you, and a sharp one that prevents you really from like being able to like be in your everyday. I was really grateful throughout my journey that I do what I do and that I sit in a chair most of the day, because I'm going to record a podcast in this season of that as well. Sitting in a chair all day was actually the best option for me in my healing journey. It allowed me the most rest. It's not great to sit in a chair all day, but when your body's on fire, it's actually probably one of the more helpful things you can do. Adding more muscle waste and waste that your body has to clean up can actually be more deleterious than helpful. So I got COVID in September. I got this Bartonella headache in this thermal pool. We were in Italy. I think I picked COVID up. Either it was brewing when I got that headache or I picked it up at the wedding. I think it was the latter, but it was all kind of in the same time frame. I was super sick. The sickness went away pretty quickly, but then from there I was left with like really bad viral. I got my first cold sore. That was weird. I have a pretty elevated level of human herpes virus 6, human herpes virus 7, which isn't sores, you're not going to know it's there unless you look for it. I've got Epstein-Barr. I had terrible zoster virus when I was chickenpox, and then had some resurgence of it when I was in college. And so I've known that there was a lot of viral work. And for me, COVID really has stimulated a lot of the symptoms. In fact, if I look back in time, COVID was what finally sort of made my system aggravated enough that I needed to seek treatment for Lyme in general. And that was sort of the beginning of the Lyme spiral and sort of how it all kind of presented. So it wasn't the actual COVID itself in October that made my system so aggravated. It was the post-COVID, and the post-COVID and the probably 2-3 weeks later, my hair always falls out after I have COVID. My hair was falling out. I was exhausted, and I knew I was having a lot of viral stuff. So I started doing viral support, which I didn't realize that you could have some pretty serious herxing from viral work, especially if you have a pretty elevated level of viral amount in your body. So I experienced what was a pretty aggressive viral herx. And so I have been much more aware for my own patients that, this can really be a thing. And it's definitely something that we need to be mindful of, especially when we start doing any kind of viral work. So I was taking monolaurin, having terrible herxing, like really bad fatigue, really, really bad fatigue, feeling like I had the flu. So fast forward, I had done a pretty extensive, forgot about that. I had done a pretty extensive round of parasite work over the summer, had some liver flukes come out, had some all sorts of stuff. Remember, for those of you guys that are new here, I have had all sorts of symptoms. Gut symptoms are not, symptoms in my gut are not something I've had. I've had pretty much everything else, except in sort of like various parts of the treatment. I definitely had some gut symptoms, but I did a pretty extensive parasite treatment over the summer. Like I said, finished it, got COVID, ended up doing a lot of viral work, was able to work up to the lysine, ended up taking Valtrex, which is still sitting here on my desk, monolaurin, and then getting into heavy herbals for Epstein-Barr herpes 6. That hurt a little bit. That was definitely, but again, when we talk about the herxing thing, I was seeing improvement, and I was very careful. I'm very careful as a clinician, and I'm very careful when I do stuff myself. I know myself at this point, so I can kind of expect what I'm going to end up with. But I ended up doing a bunch of liver work towards the end of last year, and that was super eye-opening for me. That was probably the one organ that I hadn't really touched. And so I did a bunch of like powerful herbals to support the liver. And that was, how do I say this? That was very productive, shall we say. Cleaning out the liver is a really interesting experience. I say this to a bunch of clients and patients, but for a long time, I was sort of like afraid of the liver as a clinician because the liver is one of these very powerful. You don't really want to step on its toes. You don't really want to aggravate it. But as a clinician, it can hold a lot of key elements for actually helping somebody heal. And I've become more and more comfortable with it over time because I've had to. The universe hands you what you need, right? In a lot of ways, not all the time, but in some cases. And so I was handed a lot of people who needed liver work, liver support, elevated liver enzymes. So I just basically rolled up my sleeves and was like, well, here we go. I'm going to have to figure out ways to do this in a way that was supportive, but I could be careful. So this is where I've been kind of for the last year, just clinically and, working in my skill set. And there's places in this realm where there's data, and then there's a lot of places where there's not data in the realm of the work that we do. And so a lot of it ends up being anecdotal data or data that's, that we collect from all the work that we do as clinicians. Or we connect with other clinicians, we talk to other clinicians, we see what's been working for them, what they've been experiencing, et cetera. So the liver work has definitely been in that category of things. I would tell you at this very moment, I am in the throes of sorting out sleep. How much sleep support do I need? What's too much? What's not enough? Working on kind of rebalancing my adrenals. That's been a very big part of the last 6 months. I'm going to knock on wood as I say this. The Lyme stuff has been quiet, but it's always a journey, and it's always an experience to make sure that it stays that way. So I definitely feel super grateful for my journey, both from my own perspective as well as helping our clients. So in the year of 2025, we're going to dive into some things that we are seeing here in the practice. We're going to bring on a few guests, but we're going to do a lot of the episodes ourselves because you guys asked us for that. Please feel free to send us requests, ask us questions. You know where to find us on Isabel Smith Nutrition or on the WellFuel Podcast on Instagram. And we're so happy to have you. And I hope that my own journey, both as a person and a clinician, can inspire you to work on your health, be hopeful, and hang in there, because I am going on year 8 and I'm nowhere near done. These bodies require a lot of support. And remember, in the current day and age we live in, they need more support than ever. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time right here on the WellFuel Podcast. As always, thanks so much for listening to the WellFuel Podcast. We're so happy to have you. To make sure you don't miss a beat, please subscribe either on Apple or Spotify, because we have episodes dropping once or more a week with tons of great content. If you want to make sure that you're up to date on everything we're doing in the business with our clients and new offers and all the things, make sure that you check us out at Isabel Smith Nutrition on Instagram and isabelsmithnutrition.com. See you guys soon.